Have you ever wondered what it really takes for a neighborhood that's, on the brink to pull itself back? It's not always about these huge grand plans or some big intervention from the outside. Sometimes the most profound changes start with something, well, incredibly simple. So let's get into it.
So picture this. You've got this old neighborhood, right? A place with real history. But it's definitely seen better days. People are still living there, holding on, even with the economic decline and all the risks that come with it. You know the scene. Businesses are struggling, and there's this feeling of hopelessness kind of setting in.
And then, something happens. After a particularly violent incident makes the news, something just shifts. Instead of giving up, a group of neighbors decides to come together. And the spark that lit the fire? Some people say it was just a simple block party, a barbecue. And that right there brings us to the big question we're tackling today. How in the world can something as simple as a barbecue actually become the thing that saves an entire neighborhood? It sounds crazy, right? Well, to answer that, we've got to first understand what a community really is. Okay, so what makes a community? Let's talk about the building blocks of belonging.
We throw that word community around all the time, but what does it actually mean? It's so much more than just a bunch of houses on a map, right? It's like a living, breathing thing.
When you boil it all down, a community is really just about people coming together, connecting with each other to share what they have and to make sure everyone's basic needs are met. It's basically a system of mutual support.
And psychologists have actually broken this down into 4 key elements. First, you've got membership. That's the feeling that you belong, that you're part of the group. Then there's influence. This is the belief that you can actually make a difference, that your voice matters. Third is integration. That's the confidence that your needs will be met because you're all in it together. And finally, you have that emotional connection, the shared history, the shared experiences. Now think about that block party. It was firing on all 4 of these cylinders at once.
All right, next up, when stress hits home. Let's look at the forces that really test us.
So stressors are basically any kind of pressure on a system, and they usually come in 2 flavors. First, you have acute stressors. Think of a hurricane. It's a clear, obvious event. It has a start and it has an end. But then you've got chronic stressors, things like poverty. These are totally open-ended. They just drain resources day after day with no clear end in sight. And that neighborhood we were talking about, yeah, it was dealing with some serious chronic stress.
So, how does change actually happen? Here's a simple model for really big shift. This is the classic ABC model of behavior change, and it's super simple. A is for antecedent. That's just the trigger, the thing that happens first. In our story, that was the violent incident. B is for behavior, the action people take. And here, instead of hiding inside, the neighbors organize that barbecue. And finally, C is the consequence, the result. And what happened? They built connection, they felt safer. See? ABC.
All right, so how do we get people to act? How do we go from one individual to real community action?
This is really the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you actually get citizens involved in solving their own community's problems? How do you get people to stop being spectators and actually get in the game? Well, it almost always comes down to a really simple calculation. Citizen participation happens when the benefits of taking action feel bigger than the costs. People get involved when they think, hey, the benefit of feeling safer, or more connected, or even just protecting my home's value. That's worth more than the cost of my time and energy. And that block party, it made the cost of getting involved super low. Just show up. And the benefits, well, those felt immediate and very, very real.
And this leads to a really important shift in thinking. It's about going from patient to person. It's a whole new way of looking at things. So there are 2 really different ways to think about this. On one hand, you have the medical model. It's all about symptoms, it sees a problem like crime, and its only goal is to get rid of that problem. But then you have the humanistic model. This one focuses on the whole person and their needs inside their community. It's not just asking, how do we fix this problem? It's asking, how do we build a community where this kind of problem can't even grow? Huge difference.
And to really understand why this shift is so important, and just how dangerous that first way of thinking can be, we need to look at a fascinating and, honestly, pretty shocking study.
So back in the 70s, a researcher named David Rosenhan asked this incredibly bold question. Can psychiatrists actually tell the sane from the insane?
The study was called Sane in Insane Places. Here's how it worked. 8 perfectly healthy people, these pseudo-patients, were sent to different hospitals. Their only instruction?
complain about hearing a voice that just said the word thud. And the result? All 8 of them were admitted. Every single one was given a serious psychiatric diagnosis. But this is where it gets really mind-blowing. While the professional staff, the doctors, the nurses, they didn't recognize that these people were perfectly normal. You know who often did? Many of the other patients did. They could spot the fakes.
And Rosenhan's conclusion here is pretty chilling. He said, the staff did not recognize this normalcy. This may be because they rarely saw it. Basically, they were so stuck in that medical model mindset, so focused on the patient label, that they were only looking for symptoms. They weren't seeing the person. They didn't see normalcy because in that place, they just didn't expect it.
And that brings everything full circle, right back to where we started. It leaves us with a really important question. Are we trying to fix broken people, or are we trying to build resilient communities? When we look at a struggling neighborhood, do we just slap a label on it and try to fix it from the outside? Or do we look for the health and the strength that's already there and ask, how can we help build this up from the inside? Because in the end, this all shows that sometimes the most powerful tool for change isn't some big government program or a new policy. Sometimes it's just a barbecue.